Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hotdog and Handshake podcast, episode 9. I got it right this time. I was informed the last episode was a completely wrong number, but I'm getting old and I forget stuff. We are honored.
That's why you got me,
today
Sean.
to
That's
be-
why I'm around here still.
Yeah, pretty much. We are honored today to have a guest of a caliber that we've never had before. Someone that has been on some of my favorite shows, made appearances on some of my favorite professional wrestling shows. We have the one and only Ricky Reyes, aka Cortez Castro. Sir, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it greatly. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, no problem at all. We're excited to have the opportunity to talk to you because coming up next Saturday, April 24th in Fort Wayne, Indiana, at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum, you will not only be attending for people to meet and greet and take pictures with and sign autographs and get some merch, but you'll also be competing later on that day against our current cruiserweight champion, Cody Lee. So we're real excited about that. I don't know if you know very much about Cody Lee or if you've had a chance to kind of study up on him. You guys are on a similar level as far as style goes. He loves to get on that top rope and fly off with complete disregard to the after effects. He's quick, so it's gonna be a great match. I think you guys are gonna bring the house down. So pretty excited about that.
The strap's on the line, so.
And the strap is on the line. I mean, you could walk away as the Heroes and Legends Cruiserweight champion, so that would be pretty cool. I mean, what are your thoughts going into that match?
I mean, I'm excited. Anytime I get to debut anywhere new, especially on a stage this big, for this event, I'm really excited. I'm just looking forward to training the rest of the week and getting on that plane and getting there.
Well, Cody Lee, if you're listening, the man is training and he's getting ready for you. So don't expect, don't sleep on Cortez Castro is what he's saying. So let's talk about your wrestling career. I mean, you've got a pretty storied history. Your career goes back. Your career goes back what, 20 plus years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 22.
22 years. Let's talk about what first gave you that bug. What were you watching or what were you doing when you said, I want to do that? I want to do that for a career.
The first match I remember and the first moment I realized that this is what I wanted to do was when I watched Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik in Madison Square Garden. I was watching on TV with my dad and my brother. And I remember when Hogan won, me and my brother were like jumping up and down, screaming. And I remember
little Hulkamaniacs, huh?
Yeah. And I remember telling my dad, like, I'm gonna be a wrestler when I grow up. And he was like, shut up, sit down, I can't see the TV. So, and that was it. I remember sitting down thinking that that's what I want to do. And I never stopped from there. I was like 6 years old or something.
Now, when your parents, realized that you were absolutely serious about this, were they supportive? Were they on the fence? What was obviously, sitting watching with your dad was a fan. So, did you have the support of family?
No, none at all. No, not at all. Yeah, from the time I was and when I first started high school, I quit the basketball team and went out for the wrestling team, knowing that I was going to be a wrestler. So I better learn how to actually wrestle. So I quit playing all sports except wrestling and working out. And, I didn't have any support from my parents or any family member. So I just did everything on my own. The deal was, as long as I was either working or going to school full time, that's all my parents really wanted, for me to stay out of trouble, but they did not support me in any way. So any kind of like financial, backing of any kind that I needed, and support as far as getting places and stuff like that was all up to me. So I did everything on my own, and they did not like the idea of it. They didn't like me amateur wrestling. I think deep down, my dad liked it because he liked wrestling, so he was a fan of it. But
As your
mom,
dad, he wants you to do something, make some money.
yeah, my dad just nobody in my family understood it, like that you could make a living at it, or what being a professional athlete, what it entails, So to them it was nonsense, and everybody that I would tell, cousins, uncles, whatever, they just kind of blow it off as, yeah, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do with your life? And they didn't understand, the magnitude of what it was that I loved. And, they just, yeah, I mean, in their defense, they were just looking out for me. Right. But you can't tell somebody, what their dreams are, or what their dreams are not, for that matter, So if you love something and you're truly passionate about it and you really want to do it, you can achieve anything, because, in time, hard work will pay off, the cream will rise to the top. So, I love wrestling since I was a little kid, since as far back as I can remember. Like I said, like just being a little kid and watching it, and, I just knew that that's what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it. That would be a whole different story, but, I never let other people dictate what I do or how I feel, and it was a struggle. I mean, for years and years, I got zero support, and, a lot of times it felt like I'd go home and be super excited about something, and, my mom could care less. And, it was rough. It was a rough start, rough time in the early years, for sure.
Now, obviously, you figured out that you probably had to go to wrestling school to get in the business. Where did that come about? How did you find wrestling school where you were at?
So I used to go to the grocery stores like every week and just stand in the magazine section and read all the wrestling magazines, because I couldn't buy them all because we didn't have a lot of money.
Sure.
So I used to sit there and just read, for hours, just sitting on the floor, at a Stater Brothers grocery store, just reading magazines. And then one time I was looking at Pro Wrestling Insider, and they had a guide to independent wrestling, which was like on the headline on the top. And so I went to the back of the magazine and I found like independent wrestling, which I didn't know existed, right? Like or I didn't know that it was listed, at least, like independent wrestling. And there was some ads for wrestling schools. So I found, and I wrote down the number of a place in San Bernardino, California, which is where I grew up. I was actually born there. And that was like 30 minutes from my house. And I was like, like at first I fell for the, the glitz and glamour of Ultimate Warrior University. So I wrote them a letter and called the number repeatedly. And it was somewhere in Arizona. And I was ready to just buy a clunky car and
Get out there,
pack my shit in there and drive to Arizona and hope for the best, with my $500 deposit. But no one ever called me back, or I didn't ever get any information. So then I stumbled across Jesse Hernandez School of Hard Knocks in San Bernardino, California. So I called them a couple of times and I was super nervous. Went down to the school and just asked questions like, how do I sign up and stuff like that. And I just started training there. I think I went on a Saturday, I remember, Saturday afternoon while they had class. And then I started that Tuesday night. I think it was like July of 1998.
And how'd your initial first day go? I mean, did you kind of already have an idea of wrestling in general and knew what you were going to get into, or was it like just a big culture shock?
Well, I mean, I already was, not that I'm a tough guy or anything, but like I was kind of used to getting beat up because I amateur wrestled for a few years. So the physicality and getting slammed and thrown wasn't as big of a shock to me as it is to like other people that I see that come from like maybe other sports or no sport
Oh yeah.
background at all. So the
Yes.
amateur wrestling came in handy greatly because I was in good condition. I
You already hit
spent,
the mat a few times, so
yeah, I've been
yeah.
thrown around and stuff in front of people and aggressively. It's just a different mindset, if you've never wrestled or played football, or been a very physical type person like karate or taekwondo type of stuff where people are lunging at you and stuff like that. It's and I have to, when I train guys and girls, like I have to stop and remind myself, like
Yeah.
they just don't know, and I I was a lifetime fan, at that point I was 20 years old and I've been watching wrestling for 15 years. So when guys were like, hey, can you throw a clothesline? I know what a clothesline looks
Yeah.
like, and I would just imitate it, and we all kind of do that until we get comfortable with it, right? So like uh that's so it was, I didn't want to say it was easy because it wasn't, but it was easier for me than other people, because I remember when I started there was a handful of people that uh were newer students as well, and some of them just didn't understand what a clothesline was, or when they saw it, they just did it really badly. And in my mind, I was just like, well, I know what it looks like, so I'm just going to imitate what I've seen on television.
Right. Well, that makes perfect sense, and that gave you a little bit of an edge, that you may not have really realized that you had at the time. But I love the story that you just told, because and it's, we've heard similar stories before where people come from not much, and they had that dream and they pursue that dream, and look at where you and looking where they are at now. um you've come from a kid who loved wrestling and knew he wanted to do what Hulk Hogan did,
Yeah.
and you achieved that. So the story isn't over yet. Obviously, you're still going today, um, but you're going to be able to get that happy ending, and that's what it's about. It's doing what you love, being able to continue doing what you love, and then go out on your own terms, which is fantastic. um, so you started training, and was your school able to help you start getting into getting your name out there, and getting yourself matches booked, or how did that work out for you? And what was some of your first matches that you ever worked?
Yeah, it was definitely a great place to start. um I mean, most places run events that have wrestling schools, and that's how this place was. It was a school of hard knocks for wrestling. That was the school, but then Empire Wrestling Federation was the promotion, which they ran shows and events. So it was great in that sense because obviously, like the late '90s, early 2000s, wrestling was in a boom with the whole Austin era and everything like that, Attitude Era. So pro wrestling was an easy sell. There was always fundraisers and events going on all over with pro wrestling being the headline. So uh, by September of that year, I had a few months worth of training, and I was, the promoter was telling me, hey, try to come up with a gimmick and we'll get you ready for your first match. So I didn't miss practice. Like it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, and then Saturday mornings, and I was there every day. I just, built my whole life around my wrestling schedule. Uh, so I picked up everything kind of quick because I really wanted it, and I stayed after and,
You didn't have a
try to
backup
find,
plan. Wrestling was it.
but yeah, I still don't have a backup plan. Like it's that was it. Like, against Jim Ross's wishes, I put all my eggs in one basket and ran with it, you know. He's like, have a backup plan, kid. And I was like, I'm not good at anything else. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all I know. Yeah.
That's all I got. I'm not even good at this, but I'm gonna
So
keep going.
being in the California area, that was a hotbed for independent wrestling there for a while. Did you wind up, like I said, kind of hooking up with some of those guys, like the Super Dragons and the Young Buck era?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think Rocky and I, TJP, Frankie Kazarian, Samoa Joe, Chris Daniels, like we kind of set that standard there for Southern California independent wrestling in early 2000s for sure. Because Rocky and I kind of caught fire a little quick, and around the same time, like Frankie Kazarian had just moved back to Southern California and was starting, and Chris Daniels was already there. He helped train me like even my first day, and then from there we went to like UPW together. And that's kind of where like John Cena got signed from there. And Super Dragon and those guys, the Revolution Pro guys, they were catching fire on the internet as far as like doing innovative style of wrestling matches, and like they had like the crazy costumes and stuff. And then Pro Wrestling Guerrilla started, so we were kind of the cornerstones and the foundation for that, bringing in a lot of the Ring of Honor wrestlers. And then then we eventually got to Ring of Honor and started wrestling all over. But before all that, I mean, Rocky and I were like kind of big deal internationally, like working for New Japan. Like our debut match for New Japan was in the Tokyo Dome in 2002 October. Went to Arena Mexico, and we lived in Mexico City for CMLL. So we were doing a lot of stuff internationally, the early 2000s, before we even got to Ring of Honor. And then I think with Ring of Honor helped kind of put us on the map in the States. And then we started kind of just catching fire from there. But yeah, the early 2000s independent wrestling scene in Southern California was hot for a while.
I was basically at that tape trading stage,
Correct.
Coming from Indiana. We didn't get a lot of that California wrestling. And I remember just hooking up with a couple guys that had a few tapes, and I just always remember that's where I always wanted to go. I just felt like that you guys hit harder. Obviously, there was a lucha libre influence in there from being so close to Mexico, and
Sure.
It was just great wrestling. Obviously up here we had our normal kind of grapple Midwestern style, but I was just blown away by that hard hitting, fast lucha California style.
Yeah, I mean, like most places are advertised as lucha libre. In Southern California, it's more appealing to the demographic and the audience there. So you have like a faster pace style of wrestling, and that's how we were trained. We were trained lucha libre style wrestling, and then Mr. Inoki opened up the New Japan dojo in 2002, and then we transferred into there, and like I was living there in Santa Monica in the dojo with like Brian Danielson, TJP, Rocky Romero, Samoa Joe, like
the who's who of 2002.
Yeah,
pretty much.
We were just we all lived together and in the dojo, because the motto there was, if you want to be part of New Japan, then prove it, and guys came and gone, they typical try to get in the New Japan, but would show up a few times and then that was it, like we lived there, like we didn't do anything else but train all week long, and then on the road on all weekend for independent shots, and then right back to training Monday, mopping floors, dumping trash, cooking food, doing laundry. Like we just, we did the traditional Japanese style young boy stuff and did it with smiles on our faces, because our goal was to work for New Japan, but not only work for New Japan, the idea was to branch out to the United States, so we try to do as much as we could as far as keeping consistent training, having good shows. And we also kind of like carried that banner around that we were Inoki Dojo guys. So when we would go to shows, it was like we were more like a team where we had to have the best match on the card. You know, we had to like show that if you were coming to the dojo to train, that this was the level you needed to be at. So we took that job really seriously, and a lot of the discipline and training stuff like that, like I still do today and do at my school, you know.
Oh, wow. Finding out more and more interesting information about you that, you know, a lot of people may not have known.
Yeah,
And
I
I
thought you were
think,
part of that first initial Ring of Honor alumni. You know, that's what I thought I remember from my days of watching.
Mhm. Um, so you have, you know, been on several different promotions, obviously Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, even made d- at least one appearance for WWE in your past. I saw the eye roll for those of you that aren't able to see right now.
If I heard that eye roll,
Yeah, out of those three experiences, which one was your favorite?
Mhm.
You know, as far as locker room and overall, and why?
I mean, my favorite is Lucha Underground by far.
I hear
I like,
catering was great.
yeah, I liked Ring of Honor, my time there. It was fun. Uh, but at the time I didn't look at Ring of Honor like it was anything like super special, because to me it was just another event, you know. It was special to me because all my friends were there, like Punk and Joe and Brian and Rocky, you know, and I just knew that the crowd was really, really hot there, and they were very passionate about the Ring of Honor brand and the style of wrestling, you know, which was basically like a New Japan style wrestling, like a very hybrid mix of lucha libre and traditional strong style wrestling. The crowd just appreciated, really, the crowd appreciated the efforts, you know, like you could lose every night and still be okay with the crowd, because as long as you just tried and gave it your all, like no one walked into that locker room thinking they were going to mail it in. Like we wouldn't let them, you know. It was,
it's like
yeah, so it was always a fun night, hard hitting action, you know, and just a good group of guys, and you know. But my favorite by far would be Lucha Underground, because when we started, like I was the first wrestler to sign a contract with them. Uh, so they always joke that I was number one. My employee number is 001. But I remember our first weekend in, we didn't really even know what it was, you know, like there was no identity to it. Like there was no one knew anything, you know. There was only like 14 of us in the locker room, and
like there's supposed to be more, right? But there was issues with visas.
well, yeah, Pentagon and Phoenix and all of them didn't get in, and Drago didn't get in until the next set of tapings. Um, I believe the idea for the first night was supposed to be Phoenix against Prince Puma, and it ended up being Johnny Mundo against Prince Puma. Uh, so there was that. So we just had no idea of what it was, and ultimately we made and created Lucha Underground out of our own image, you know. So it was really just a plain canvas for us to make Lucha Underground into whatever we wanted it to be, right? There was no track record, there was no style to Lucha Underground. It was what we were gonna make it, you know. So we really I'm really proud of it, because it's like that time in my life was unique in the sense of like I was kind of put in a position where, you know, I was respected more by that locker room than any other locker room, because at that time I was, you know, like 15, 16 years in, and I was always that guy that was like, should have been at the dance, but never was. And this was my dance, So it was a special time for me. Even personally, like I had my son at that time, I got married. So it was very special to me, in many ways, but as far as like the show itself, we knew by the end of the first season that this was not going to end soon, and it didn't end for another 3 seasons, but we knew that we just needed to get this product out in front of the fans, and they would love it, because we went from the first few tapings, like having, maybe a couple hundred people there, to there would be a line outside at 7 a.m. in the morning for people to come get their tickets. Like we would get there around 8 o'clock, and these people had literally camped out overnight outside the building trying to get tickets to see us, coming from all over the country. So we knew that we were onto something special. So it was very unique.
I remember when I first heard about it, I was really afraid it was going to have that MTV era feel to it, where they had that fake crowd, and I was really worried about that. And then I see that first episode, and I was like, no, this is completely different. This feels different. This looks different. And then I didn't know how I was going to like that kind of TV produced cutscenes. And it became one of my favorite parts of the show.
Right.
So, I mean, you guys definitely, who was the mastermind behind kind of coming up with that idea?
Well, the head writer was Christopher DeJoseph, and he worked for Vince for like 8 years or something like that. And again, it was a mixture of like his idea of what he wanted the show to be, and everyone just kind of firing on all cylinders. I feel like he let us be who we were, and then we just cranked it up, which is what Jim Ross always says, like a good, the best talents are themselves, So a lot of times we'd go over scripts and stuff, and, he would say, this is what we got tonight, but how would you say it? Or say it like how you would say it. So they really gave us a lot of freedom, and the directors and stuff and producers of the show, they're just all like first class Hollywood, writers and producers and stuff. So they knew how to deal with talent and how to deal with getting the most out of people, and you felt a lot more comfortable once you had your boss telling you, like, just do this how you would do it, like don't put an accent on, don't act any different than you normally would, so you're very comfortable in that sense.
And being able to have, that little bit of creative freedom, I think is extremely important, because,
Absolutely.
you're talking about, a group of Hollywood, producers, script writers, whatever the case may be, putting together a show like Lucha Underground that quickly became one of my favorites. I mean, I love the stories, I love the characters, the flair. I mean, it was amazing. And then you've got
The matches were great too, though.
Oh
On
yeah,
top of that, it was
definitely. I
great
mean,
wrestling.
that goes without saying. But then you've got, other companies who shall not be named that have script writers and producers and directors who don't put on the same type of show and don't have the ability to allow for that creative freedom. And I think that, what you just described makes a world of difference when it comes to a show, because you've got, like AEW, they give them a little bit of freedom when it comes to, what they're doing with their characters, and it just produces a whole different flavor of show, a whole different side of wrestling TV. And obviously we're talking apples and oranges when we're talking these different companies, but I've always been a firm believer that you've got to have some kind of input. like with Heroes and Legends, we're nowhere near the caliber of WWE or a Lucha Underground, but we don't write everything in stone. Things are always subject to change because you may have an idea that I didn't think of, or you may be able to improve on an idea that we've come up with. And I think that's important because it keeps you happy. It keeps the stories rolling. It keeps the fans happy, and I'm glad that he had an experience like that because we've talked to a lot of people, and it's few and far between that we hear of these people having these wonderful experiences where they loved their job. Sean Hernandez is one person we interviewed, and he, talked nothing but over the moon stuff about Lucha Underground and a couple other companies that he's worked with, and we talked off air about the possibility of Azteca Underground. I hope if something like this, ends up coming to fruition, that it still maintains some of that flair and some of that excitement that we saw before. But who knows? Things change every day in this business, as we all know.
Only if those guys. I mean, only if those guys are involved. I feel like if this is an MLW way of trying to cash in on something they didn't create, I'm not behind that. I definitely want the guys that broke their back for that company to get the roots of that. You know what I mean? So if this Azteca thing you talk about is legit, you should. I kind of feel like they need to reach out to the guys who created Lucha Underground personally.
Yeah.
I
They do have a
shoot
website up.
That is one of those things that kind of feel like I don't like to see anybody rip somebody else's work off, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, after all of that, you have been around the world. I mean, you're an international competitor. You wrestled in Mexico, United States, and Japan that we've talked of. Have you ever wrestled over in the UK at all?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
I did PWG, did a weekend out there in Germany and England. I did that, and then there used to be this promotion, 1PW, and it was basically like TNA, ROH, like super shows they used to do. I think Steve Carino was booking there for a little bit, but yeah, UK. I lived in Puerto Rico for a year, worked for Carlos down there.
How was that? How was that? I've always been told it was that's a different environment down there, working for WWA or WWC.
WWC, yeah, it is. I mean, I loved it. I mean, besides Lucha Underground, that was the best time of my life, was living in Puerto Rico. You can't beat living on the beach rent free, being on TV every week. So that was all right.
Yeah, that's an advantage. I'd say that's a perk.
Yeah. It was probably it's probably at least in 2009 was the last real territory left. We were running Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, but TV on Saturday afternoons, and then just learning how to run like a territory. We'd Thursday nights, we'd go to the office and shoot promos for all weekend, so you got to learn how to get in there and get all your promos for each town, each opponent, so you kind of just get thrown right into it. It's like my first time
down there.
Yeah, because like I didn't know anything, they're like, oh, you got to be at the office on Thursday, and I was like, all right, like no one told me anything, and it's like, okay, well, we were in Bayamon, Aguadilla, and Carolina, so shoot your promos, and I was like, for what? It's like for TV, Saturday and Sunday morning, we're gonna air this for that night, blah blah blah. So then I have like a wrestling library in my head, so I'm thinking like Flair on Crockett's show talking about the Omni tonight, blah blah blah. So I'm like, okay, how do I quick. I gotta think, like, how do I do this? Like, who am I? Who's my opponent? Why do they want to be there?
Yep.
What are they going to see? Blah, blah, blah.
How to
So
get the
you learn
fans in
kind
the
of,
building? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Get asses in seats
Yep.
is the job there, So I learned so much. I mean, um, again, like, if I didn't have that year experience there, I wouldn't be as nearly confident in my ability to do, different things and be confident, because like that anniversary event that year was the largest they had all decade. It was 10,000 people sold out in the Bayamon Coliseo. So it was huge for the company, and me and Carino were kind of like the foreign aces, I guess you would say, like, that came in and really like started lighting the territory up, because I was the junior heavyweight champion and he was the universal heavyweight champion, and both of us were champions going into the WrestleMania, basically, and dropping the belts to the foreign guys, to the hometown guys.
Are you
So
talking
Carl,
Steve Carino?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was always a big. He never got the um accolations he should have gotten for, especially that run he had in ECW.
yeah,
Obviously everybody had left, right? Paul didn't
yeah,
have anybody, and
mm,
Steve took that company on his back
yeah.
and ran with it with that title. You know, having those matches with Dusty and all that stuff was just great. He never gets the respect he deserves. I feel like
I think from an outsider's perspective, he doesn't, but within the business,
very
Steve,
regarded.
yeah, in the locker room and with the boys, like, Steve's one of the most respected guys out there, um, because he's a lot like myself, where just kind of like those road warriors, like, we keep, grinding it out and just doing it because we love it, and people in time just learn to respect that.
Well, speaking of that, like you said, you got what, like I said, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
How much gas you got left in the tank?
I feel good. I mean, during the week I don't feel good, but when the bell rings, I feel fine. You
Yeah.
know, uh, I've always made a bet with myself. As long as I'm okay in the ring, that's all that matters. Uh, in real life, it's a different story, but it's worth it, because the 10 minutes in the ring or 15 minutes in the ring is what I live for. So um, it's weird to me how I can be like in pain constantly, like in the gym from day to day and at training and stuff, but when that bell rings, I don't feel anything. So
Like I tell us, like along that lines. I remember seeing a show with Just Incredible,
mm,
and I remember him just being backstage. Just you could definitely tell he was hurting,
yeah,
and his music hit, and he walked out on that stage like nothing
yeah,
could touch him. And I just
right.
remember being blown away
Mhm.
just by that drug, right? I mean, that's that. I mean, obviously, pro wrestling is that we call it.
Absolutely.
You get that bit by the bug, or you get. It's a drug, right? I mean, it's probably the best feeling you could ever get.
It totally is, and it's hard to give it up. You know, I mean, during the when this pandemic hit and no one really knew anything, right? Like,
Yeah.
when it would end or what's going on or what's going to happen. So, I mean, you just kind of sit around and you just got time to think, and it was a tough time for everybody, and I didn't know if I would ever, wrestle again, or
Yeah.
would anyone care if I wrestled again, and things like that. But, things started slowly getting back together, and it was just a matter of just getting back to where, I felt confident in the ring again, and that takes a little time, because you can kind of just, uh, I don't know, I guess, I don't know if you just look at the world in a different way, when something like this happens, like, who's to say, because we've never experienced anything like this, right? There's never been
Exactly.
pandemic in our lifetime until now. So I think, we're all just trying to figure everything out still. But like last night, like Friday and Saturday night, I wrestled, and once you're out there doing it, it's like, this is where you belong, so you just keep going until you don't want to do it anymore.
It's almost like your
Well,
body remembers every bump that you've taken. And even though you maybe been a while since you've taken one, it's like riding
Yeah,
a bike, right?
exactly. Yeah.
well, definitely, based on our conversation today, especially the wrestling world is a little bit better of a place with somebody like you in it.
Ooh,
You have that,
the
you've got
future's
the
in good
history,
hands.
you've got the drive, you've got the love, and you are training the future, and you're training the future to be like you, and in using what you've learned throughout the years. So I look forward to seeing what kind of talent you start putting out, and interested to follow these people's careers. Um, so on that note, I can't think of a better time to take take this conversation and leave it where it's at for other people to listen to,
Yeah.
and hopefully once they listen to it, they'll start to research you a little bit and look into you and what you're putting out there yourself, and the people that you're putting out there now. So this is your opportunity to promote yourself, let people know where they can find you on social media,
Where can they buy your
what
shit at? That's what we did. How
yeah,
they give you
yeah,
money?
definitely where they can get your merch at.
Yeah.
A little bit about your school and some of the appearances you got coming up. The floor is yours, and you can take it away.
Cool. All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Ricky Reyes 01. Facebook. I have Instagram. I don't do a lot of merch selling just because I'm usually a heel, and I'm a firm believer in heels shouldn't be out signing autographs and selling T-shirts, but unless I absolutely have to. But yeah, and I train at the world famous Monster Factory in Paulsboro, New Jersey. I'm a coach there, and that's where we run events just about every other weekend, about twice a month there, and all my schedule stuff is up on my Twitter and Facebook accounts and stuff like that. So if anyone's interested, or for booking information, all my booking information is there as well.
Awesome. And of course, once again, next Saturday, April 24th,
Yep.
Ricky Reyes versus Cody Lee
Lee.
for the Heroes and Legends Cruiserweight Championship.
He's fast,
Fort
Ricky.
Wayne,
I'm telling you,
Indiana.
he's fast.
He's fast. You got to grab him by the ankles, that kid.
Got it.
Fort Wayne, Indiana, Allen County War Memorial Coliseum. Thank you very much for being with us today. We are excited to see you next week, and hopefully we'll get the chance to talk again in the future. And we look forward to one day interviewing some of the talent that you're going to put out that we know are going to be superstars just based on our conversation today. So thank you very much, and we look forward to doing this again.
Awesome. Absolutely. Anytime, guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
You too.
Clear.
Well, that was pretty cool, man. I learned a lot about you.
Thanks.
Obviously, the first thing that people like us do is we go to Wikipedia and see, if there's some things we don't know. And Wikipedia is lacking a lot of information about you. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not too much of the social media darling, so
yeah. Well, that's all right.
Doesn't matter.
I like it. It's better that way. People
Yeah,
don't
like
know
you
my
said,
business.
you're a heel, right? You shouldn't be on Facebook.
That's right. That's
sucking it
right.
Up, right?
Yeah, everyone asks me like for that pro wrestling tee store and all that, and I'm like, I don't do any of that crap, man. Like, intermission, I try not to go out, like I don't want to take any of that away, because I feel like if you can if you can capture the fans to believe, it would be like, oh yeah, he's a bad guy. I talked to him earlier. It's really cool,
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Bruiser Brody's out at intermission, you know, hawking and shit.
That'd be scary, man. Bruiser comes up the chain.
Yeah. Hey, you don't want to be all like, yeah, I saw him in the bathroom stall. He's a nice guy, you know.
That's good. It's good, man. Like I said, we're looking forward to it. You know,
me
seeing
too.
you on Saturday.
Yeah, me too.
I'll be there. Obviously, Sean will be there all day. I got a shoot job, right? So I'll be there later in the day. But I'm looking forward to it, man. Wrestling's back.
Hell yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, like I said, our fans and the people out here in our area, we're pretty much the only show that runs within an hour and a half of our location.
Oh, good.
And our fans have missed us, and ticket sales is definitely showing that. So we'll have a great time, man. Once again, appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next Saturday, sir.
Yes, sir. I'll be there. Thanks a lot,
All
guys.
right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Take care, you too.
Bye.
Damas y caballeros, yo soy su amigo Ricardo Rodriguez, and you are watching Mike and Sean on Hotdog and a Handshake.